Jujutsu Kaisen is just fighting is a complaint I've seen, but is that true? And is that a bad thing? Let me give you a movie idea I have. There are two best friends that work for a company built by their friend group. The main character prioritizes his friendships over money, while his best friend is the opposite. He prioritizes money over friendships because of his backstory of growing up poor. The best friend becomes jealous that the main character is making more money than him, so he goes to a rival company to make more money. That rival company does illegal things, so the main character and his friends try to bring back his best friend to prove to him that friendship is more important than money, which is the theme of the movie. The movie is called Bonds, which refers to friendships and finance. Clever, isn't it? I'll come back to this. Haikyuu is one of the most respected anime and manga in terms of story quality, but that story is just mostly matches, training and matches. Yet I've never seen anyone complain that Haikyuu is just volleyball matches. Is that because it has good character development in its matches? Would that mean good character development in a battle manga polluted with fights would excuse it from the fight merchant allegations? I believe people view the amount of fights as spectacle in replacement of story. But what is story in this context? What exactly do people want from the plot when they complain about the amount of fights? What specifically are they expecting but not receiving? What types of scenes and events? Is it character development? Because that can be done in a fight. JJK isn't always just fighting. There are arcs like the Fearsome Womb versus Mahito and Gojo's Past that only have a couple fights, but then there are arcs that have 10 or more fights, which make up 90% of the arc. These Battle Royale arcs are where the criticism holds the most weight. I used to call them super arcs, but when you talk about multiple genres, that term becomes vague and unhelpful. Battle Royales are the arcs where there's a bunch of people fighting at the same time. JJK's Battle Royales are Goodwill, Shibuya, Culling Game, and Shinjuku. These are the arcs that earn JJK its fight merchant reputation. But JJK isn't the only story like this. DBZ, One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Fairy Tail, MHA, BC, and Demon Slayer all have arcs like this. I used to think that Battle Royale arcs were too spectacle heavy and light on story. I despised when battle manga crowded the story with back-to-back fights. But if the arc meets certain conditions, I'm all for it. The conditions are quantity and quality character development and themes. I'll call this substance from now on. Similar to sports manga like Haikyuu, if the story is able to weave in a proportionate amount of substance into the fights, then I feel like it isn't sacrificing story for spectacle. A great example is the Phantom Lord arc. After the inciting incident, the story boils down to Natsu vs Todomaru, Elfman vs Soul, Grey vs Juvia, Ursa vs Arya, Natsu vs Gajil, and Makarov vs Josie. Elfman's fight has character development and a theme. Grey's fight has character development for Juvia. Ursa's fight and Natsu vs Gajil have themes. 4 out of 6 had substance, so I'm fine with the amount of fighting. The best stories find multiple unique ways to externalize the character arcs and themes of the story, but externalizing them through combat isn't bad by any means. Remember that movie Bonds I talked about at the start? Sounds like a story with a lot of substance, right? That story actually sounds phenomenal. I impressed myself with it as well. Well, that's just the Sasuke recovery arc. I just kept the substance and replaced the fights with something more regular. So if the story I made up has substance, what's wrong with delivering that substance through fights? If the core of your complaint is that what you want is less fights in a battle manga, then I think you picked the wrong genre. The amount of substance is what separates a fight merchant from a high-quality battle royale. Which side does JJK lean on? Unfortunately, it leans towards the fight merchant. I believe the just fighting criticism holds weight because a lot of the fights lack meaningful character development or well-executed themes. That's not to say that they don't exist in these arcs, it's just that the percent of fights that actually have substance is very low in the 4 battle royales. Goodwill had the most amount of substance with its character development for the Kyoto students and a few themes, but the other 3 don't really have substance like this. In conclusion, if a battle manga manages to include a lot of character development and themes into a high percentage of its fights, then I don't think the amount of fights is a problem. Character and themes are substance, and spectacle and substance are mutually exclusive. They can overlap. However, JJK isn't the best at overlapping substance with spectacle.